Hey guys, Sausage here. Grab a sack of quarters because we've got games to play and laundry to do. Released on August 11th, 2022, Arcade Paradise is a laundromat simulator where you are tasked with washing and drying clothes while also operating an underground arcade in the back. You play as Ashley Goldman, daughter of Gerald Goldman, and you are given the responsibility of running your father's laundromat, King Wash, while he is away on vacation, floating on his yacht down the Riviera. Wait, Gerald? Riviera? That sounds a little odd, doesn't it? That's because the voice actor of your father, Gerald, is none other than Doug Cockle, the butcher of Blaviken himself, Geralt of Rivia. I just wanted to share this for any Witcher 3 fans out there. Anyway, back to the story. As you play, you upgrade the laundromat more and more while purchasing more and more arcade cabinets, all while keeping the underground arcade secret from your father, who just thinks you've discovered a passion for entrepreneurship of laundromats. Of course, this eventually all comes crashing down, but that's getting into spoilers. At the start of the game, I felt like a teenager again, thinking to myself, my dad doesn't know anything, and he's not even here, so who cares what he says? And slowly, that sentiment grew into a sort of resentment at the climax of the story, but it's a pretty solid feel-good resolution at the end. This story is not over the top, but not every story needs to be an Avengers-level threat. Some stories can take place in a tiny little laundromat and still be good. Arcade Paradise is proof of that. The gameplay is all about doing boring laundry while filling in the downtime with arcade games. I knew I'd be playing a bunch of various arcade games when I started Arcade Paradise, but what I didn't know about this game is that every little side task is also basically a minigame. The laundry is pretty simple in that you just hold E or whatever your interact button is. Hold E to fill up the washer, hold E to empty the washer, hold E to fill up the dryer, hold E to empty the dryer. However, with the side tasks, those range from pressing E at the right time on the gauge to pick gum off of surfaces, or throwing garbage away in the dumpster, or moving your mouse or joystick to the correct position while plunging the toilet in an attempt to do critical damage like it's a boss fight, or even debugging the arcade cabinets by literally flicking bugs off of the motherboards. This was a fun and unexpected mechanic to the game. However, these tasks became quite repetitive because after about halfway through the story, I just wanted to get in, do my laundry, play some games, make some money, and make some upgrades. The bright side to this is that you can purchase upgrades that can make these tasks easier, but that requires completing various challenges to earn a separate currency that is spent solely on these upgrades. These challenges might pertain to certain arcade cabinets themselves, or you can even get random daily challenges. These upgrades range from everything from upgrading your watch so that you no longer get notifications when a cabinet breaks or when a coin hopper fills up, or you can even hire an employee, which means you no longer have to collect the coins from the arcade hoppers. So there are upgrades that can make the game less tedious, but even then the gameplay can still be quite grindy. With grinding out these challenges while also staying on top of laundry, emptying coin hoppers, throwing out trash, and fixing bugs, it's just a lot to juggle and can feel monotonous at times. On top of that, occasionally I ran into bugs, but for the most part, they weren't that serious. The most common bug I ran into was that the character's model arm would stay extended after emptying a dryer, but the game fixed itself the moment you placed the basket of clean clothes on the pickup table. I did encounter some bugs that were more intense later in the game, but those were much less common. I can really only think of one or two bugs that were so severe as to cause me to restart the game. So there are some bugs, but by and large, they're nothing to worry about. With those two important categories out of the way, let's move on to the AI. Arcade Paradise is on every major console as well as PC, and while it has mouse and keyboard support, it feels like an afterthought. For the most part, the game was playable with mouse and keyboard, but there were some certain occasions that left me annoyed, such as navigating menus on the office computer or even while playing some of the games. It's not like they included mouse and keyboard support at the very end of development, or maybe they did, I don't know, but the support is there. It just feels like they included it, signed off on it, and pushed it out the door without playtesting it. The game does recommend using a controller on the Steam page, and of course it's on other consoles besides PC, but when I discovered mouse and keyboard worked, I decided to stick with it, but by the time I realized mouse and keyboard support was weak, I was already 8 or so hours into the game and I didn't want to relearn the controls. As for the graphics, Arcade Paradise looks fantastic so long as you aren't looking at the forest for the trees. What I mean is that from a distance, the whole game looks great, but when you get up close and really look at the assets, such as the vending machine or inside the dryers, it can leave a little to be desired as the models look a little flat and the details don't really hold up. If you're looking at screenshots of the game and you're unsure, just know what you see is what you get. The screenshots with the neon lights and arcade cabinets really do look that good, and the screenshots inside the washers and dryers actually look that rough. So long as you aren't pressing your face against every model you see in game, you'll probably appreciate how good everything looks. The soundtrack. To no one's surprise, I'm not going to be including any of the actual music from the game in this video because of potential copyright reasons, but take my word for it, the soundtrack is great. While some of the songs can feel timeless, others feel like they were ripped straight out of the 90s. Some of the music the devs included in their game is completely original, while others are covers of popular songs, such as Can I Play It being a cover of Can I Kick It by a tribe called Quest. Not once did I ever get tired of the playlist in this game. As for the price, Arcade Paradise is sitting at $20 US on Steam. The base game took me about 28 hours to finish while completing 25 of the 54 achievements. There is some replayability to the game, especially if you like achievement hunting, but as for the story, there isn't really anything left after you finish the game. There might be some extra story elements if you 100% complete the game, but that requires, 100% completing the game, and not everyone will want to do that. There is also DLC for the game that provides you with other arcade cabinets to play, you can purchase the soundtrack, and there's even a VR mode, but I did not purchase those, so I cannot speak for them. For the most part, each DLC costs about $2. Assuming those other arcade games are similar to the ones in the base game, I don't know if those DLCs are worth purchasing at full price, but again, I did not purchase them anyway, so that claim is just speculation. Consider buying those DLC when they're on sale or after you finish the game. With all of that said, I give Arcade Paradise a rating of 7.6 sausages out of 10. The story is pretty down to earth about running your father's laundromat while dealing with what feels like his disapproval the entire game. While the story isn't bad by any means, it does seem to take a backseat to the gameplay, and that's okay. To anyone more interested in the story rather than the gameplay, you may be slightly disappointed as you can only progress the story by making money and purchasing arcade cabinets and upgrades for the building. The gameplay is great as everything feels like a minigame. The arcade cabinets are of course games, but even little chores such as throwing away the garbage or plunging the toilet is treated as a minigame as well. Unfortunately, these chores can become quite tiresome until you start completing challenges that can then unlock upgrades that will minimize your time doing those chores. There are some minor bugs in the game, but for the most part, those bugs are not game-breaking and rather something small that can be easily fixed or bypassed. The weakest part of the game though is the UI, assuming you're playing on mouse and keyboard anyway. The mouse and keyboard support feels like an afterthought that was not even playtested. If you end up playing this on PC, I highly recommend playing on a controller because you'll probably have a better experience. Graphically, the game looks great so long as you aren't looking at the forest for the trees. Just give the washers and dryers some personal space and you probably won't have any complaints. The soundtrack is terrific as each song is great, be it from the jukebox or even from the arcade cabinets themselves. My only complaint is that I wish there was a wider selection of songs to pick from, but I'm saying that from a place of greed rather than from a lack of actual music to pick from. As for the price, it's $20 on Steam, and you'll definitely put that many hours into it just finishing the game one time, not to mention if you want to complete every challenge for every arcade cabinet. As for replayability, there may be some, but the story and gameplay are pretty linear because in terms of choices, the only ones you really get to make are choosing where to physically place the arcade cabinets. All in all, the game is worth purchasing at full price, but if you wanted to wait until it's 20% off, I wouldn't blame you there either. I know there are some die-hard Arcade Paradise fans out there, so my goal is not to trash this game. For the most part, I had a really great time. My biggest complaint really is the UI, as the mouse and keyboard support is so abysmal. If the devs could fix it, I would be comfortable rating this game an 8 out of 10 or maybe even higher, but as it sits right now, the mouse and keyboard controls are just so horrible, I just can't justify a higher rating. But aside from the mouse and keyboard controls, this game really is a gem that deserves to be checked out. And that's my review of Arcade Paradise. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below, but if not, just know that I appreciate your viewership nonetheless. I also stream on Twitch occasionally, and I have a Discord for casual viewers and content creators alike, so consider joining me on those platforms as well. I'll leave a link for everything in the description below. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut my video here. Mahoney out.